Alien woman under my bed said she's here to study human mating. David sat on the edge of his bed staring at the floor with tired eyes. The clock blinked 2 a.m. and the night was quiet except for the sound of a slow creak under his bed. At first he thought it was just the old wooden frame settling like it always did, but then came a whisper. It was soft but clear, like a voice too close and too calm to ignore. David leaned down, his heart now beating faster than before. He slowly pulled the edge of the blanket back and looked under his bed. There in the shadows, a pair of glowing blue eyes stared back at him, wide open and calm. His mouth opened, but no sound came. Then the voice spoke again. Do not be afraid, I am here to study human mating. David froze. What? He blinked. Are you serious? He whispered back, thinking maybe it was a prank. Maybe someone installed a speaker under his bed as a joke. He reached his hand under the bed, but instead of plastic or wood, his fingers touched skin, cold and smooth. He jumped back and fell off the bed, landing hard on the floor. The woman crawled out slowly. She moved like she had never walked in a human body before. Her skin was pale, almost silver. Her hair floated around her like it had no weight, and her eyes glowed softly like the sky before dawn. I am Mara, she said. I am from a world far from here. I have been sent to observe emotional bonding and reproduction among humans. David stared at her, completely still. You are joking. She blinked. I do not joke. Her voice was calm but robotic, like she had practiced sentences from a manual. She reached into her suit and pulled out a small crystal disc, glowing with pulsing light. I chose you because your emotional data was rich and unpredictable. Looked at the disc, then back at her. You mean because I downloaded a dating app? Mira tilted her head. Yes, and because you often type long messages with emotional weight, but delete them before sending. David felt a strange mix of embarrassment and fear. So you read my phone? I observed it, she said. Not read like you think. He stood up, keeping a bit of distance between them. Okay, listen, if this is real, you cannot just crawl under someone's bed and say you want to study mating. That is not normal. She blinked again. I apologize, I have limited knowledge of entry protocols. David grabbed a chair and sat down slowly. So you are not going to hurt me? No, you just want to learn about human relationships. Yes. He looked at her carefully. She looked young, but ageless, human, but not quite. Her body moved with grace, but not practice. He noticed she wore a suit that shimmered like water, and the edges of her hands were glowing faintly. All right, he said, this is insane, but I guess I believe you. She sat on the floor, cross-legged, watching him. Can you tell me what makes human mating emotionally significant? David laughed, but not because it was funny, more because his brain could not keep up with the night. Where do I even start? Mira nodded. Start with why you feel nervous talking to people you like. David sighed. That is a long story. I have time, she said. He told her about how his last relationship ended, about the silence that followed, and how he often wrote messages he never sent because he was afraid of saying the wrong thing. Mira listened with complete focus, like every word he said was a code to be unlocked. She asked questions that cut deeper than he expected, like why do you believe silence protects you? Or if pain is likely, why do humans still seek love? He had no good answers, but he found himself speaking more than he ever had to anyone. Maybe it was because she did not judge, or maybe because her eyes made him feel like he was not invisible for once. After some time, she stood up and moved toward his desk. She pointed at the photo of his parents. Do you trust them? He nodded. Then why do you not speak to them about your fear? David looked away. It is complicated. Everything about humans is complicated, she said softly, but I'm starting to understand. Suddenly the lights in the room flickered. The screen of his phone flashed white, then black. Mira held up the glowing disc and frowned. Someone is tracking my signal. David stood quickly. What does that mean? Others may know. I am here. Like who? Not humans, she said. Aliens. David blinked again. Of course not humans, that would be too easy. She walked to the window and looked up at the sky. Her fingers moved across the crystal like a keyboard. We have limited time now. He stepped beside her. So what do we do? I must finish my observation before they come. And then what? She looked at him, her voice lower now. Then I leave. He felt something tighten in his chest, and he did not know why. You just leave? She nodded. The room fell quiet. Again, outside a dog barked in the distance. Somewhere a plane flew across the stars. David looked at her and said, "Well then you better start asking questions." She turned to face him. "All right, David, let us begin. Alien woman under my bed said she's here to study human mating." The morning sun tried to creep through the curtains, but David had not slept at all. He sat on the floor across from Mira, who still looked calm and focused, her silver skin softly glowing in the dim light, her eyes never blinking. Too long she held the glowing disc in her hand and asked, "What is the purpose of romantic compliments?" David yawned and scratched his head, trying to make sense of everything. "You mean like calling someone beautiful or saying they matter?" "Yes, well sometimes we say it because we mean it, and sometimes to get close to someone, and sometimes just to not feel alone." Myra stared at him. "You use words both as truth and strategy." "Yeah, pretty much. That is confusing. Tell me about it." She stood up and walked to the kitchen, following David like a shadow. He handed her a banana. She examined it like it was a weapon. "How to weapon?" "I eat this. You peel it first." "Here." He peeled it and handed it back. She took a small bite, then stopped it. "Is soft and sweet, but not satisfying." David laughed. "That is probably the most honest banana review I have ever heard." She blinked and said, "Is that flirting?" "No, that was just funny. I am still learning the difference." As they moved back to the room, Mira started asking faster, "Why do humans cry? Why do you stop talking to people you love? Why do you fear rejection more than loneliness?" David felt each question hit somewhere deep. He tried to answer, but sometimes just stayed silent. She sat next to him, listening to both his words and his quiet. Then the TV flickered again. It turned on by itself, showing static. The phone buzzed without a message. She looked at her disk again. "The energy signal is increasing." David frowned. "Is that bad?" "It means they are narrowing in who exactly is." "Then I do not believe in interfering, but some factions do not follow the rules. They believe human contact is dangerous and must be removed immediately." "You mean they will come for you, and maybe anyone near me?" David stood up. "You are saying I might be in danger?" "Yes." Walked to the window, looking out at the street. Everything looked normal. The mailman walked by, a kid rode a bike, but David felt something heavy in his chest. "So, what now?" Mira sat cross-legged again. "I will leave soon, but before that I must complete my data." She pointed to a notebook on his shelf. "Write for me your strongest memory of love." David hesitated, but took the notebook and sat beside her. He began writing about his childhood, about the day he lost his dog, and how his sister sat with him for hours without saying anything, just holding his hand. He wrote about the time he was about to leave a relationship because he thought he was not enough, but the girl kissed his forehead and told him he was more than enough. He wrote about silence and warmth and fear and hope. Mira read every line slowly, her expression changing. For the first time she looked sad. "This is more than I expected." "Is that a good thing?" "It is a dangerous thing." He watched her face. "Are you scared?" "Not for me." "For who then?" "For you." They were both quiet for a moment. Then a low hum passed through the room, like something vibrating under the floor. Myra stood quickly. "They are close." "How close?" "Within your town, possibly already scanning." "Can we run?" "Running would leave a trail, so what do we do?" She walked to the closet, pulled out a small sphere from her suit, pressed it, and a ripple passed through the walls. "This will hide us for now, but not for long." David sat on the bed, rubbing his forehead. "I cannot believe this is real. Aliens under my bed. Now they are tracking us." She looked at him. "Do you regret letting me in?" He paused. "No." "Why?" "Because you listened. And maybe because I needed someone to ask the questions you did." She looked down, then said, "You are not like the other subjects I have seen in data. Most speak but say nothing. You say little but hold much." David was not sure what to say. He felt something warm and strange inside him. It was not love, not yet, but it was connection. Spark he had not felt in a long time. Suddenly the lights flashed red, then went out. "They are here," Mira whispered. David moved toward the door. "What do they want to erase contact, to remove me and erase your memory?" His eyes widened. "Erase my memory?" "Yes." "No chance I am letting that happen." "Then you must trust Meadow. I have a choice." She held out her hand. He grabbed it. The room began to shift. The walls bent slightly like paper in wind. The sphere Mira had placed started glowing white. They both crouched as the air pulsed around them. Myra whispered, "Hold." Still David closed his eyes. Everything stopped. Silence. Then footsteps above them. A voice outside the window, speaking a language David had never heard before. Mira looked up, her face tense. "They are using seekers." "What? Is that a floating machine that scans?" "For emotional traces, you mean? It can read feelings." "Yes, and right now it knows you care about me." David swallowed hard. "So what do we do?" Lie. She leaned in close and touched her forehead to his. "This will mask your emotions temporarily." His heart pounded. "And if it does not work, then we run." The shadows outside moved closer. Myra grabbed his hand tighter. "Whatever happens," she whispered, "I will not let them hurt you." The seekers hunt. David and Myra crouched on the floor as the ripple bubble around them shimmered. Every breath felt heavy. Above their heads, quiet footsteps moved closer. The seeker hovered just outside the window. Its smooth metallic shell reflected the moonlight. A single eye glowed red. Mira whispered, "Stay calm. Let us test the mask." David nodded. He tried to slow his racing heart. He placed his hand on his chest and felt the pulse. He watched Myra bring the crystal disc close to his forehead. A warm light spread across his skin. He felt his emotions settle into a soft hum. Outside, the seeker moved along the window frame. Its red eye scanned the room. A soft hiss came from the speaker on its shell. Then it passed by. The light in its eye dimmed. The machine drifted down the hallway. It paused at the doorway. David held his breath. The ripple barrier faded. The machine pressed its eye against the glass. It searched for any sign of their presence. Mira touched David's arm. "Hold still." He froze. His mind raced. He tried to think of nothing. Silence filled the room. The seeker hovered a moment longer, then drifted away. In seconds, it disappeared down the hall. David exhaled. "It worked." Mira smiled slightly. "The mask held. But only for a short time. Others may follow." David rubbed his legs where they trembled. "So what next?" Mira stepped back. "We need to leave this place. The signal here is compromised." He stood and followed her to the closet where she stored small gadgets. She grabbed a flat silver key and handed it to him. "This opens a portal gate. It will take us to a safe location." David studied the key. It looked like a metal credit card, etched with lines that glowed faintly. "How do I use it?" Mira pressed her palm to the wall. A circular patch of energy appeared. She slid the card through a thin slot at the center. The wall folded inward like fabric, revealing a swirling vortex. The colors inside spun blues and greens. Mira held out her hand. "Step through with me." David hesitated. His mind replayed images of doctors, police, and scientific labs. He thought of his simple life, his friends, his cozy room. He thought of Mira and her gentle questions. He felt an odd mix of fear and hope. He reached for her hand. "I trust you." They stepped together into the portal. The world stretched and bent. Light spun around them. Then darkness closed. Moments later they landed on a soft surface. David opened his eyes. He stood in a clearing under alien trees. The air smelled sweet like flowers he had never known. The sky was violet where 2 moons shone. The ground glowed faintly underfoot. They were on Mira's ship world, a safe haven where few came without invitation. The trees arched high there, leaves sparkling. A stream ran beside them, glowing at its edges. Mira smiled. "Welcome to Kalira." David felt awe fill his chest. He looked around and then at Mira. "It's beautiful." She nodded. "Here we are free, but we cannot stay long. Others will soon track us here too." David took a deep breath. Then, "We must finish your study." She looked at him with surprise. "You understand?" He met her gaze. "You risked everything to learn about us. I owe you the truth." Mira reached out and touched his cheek. "Thank you." Her voice held warmth he had never heard before. They walked through the glowing forest until they reached a small dome building. The door opened as they approached. Inside was a simple room lit by soft blue lamps. A table and 2 chairs waited. Myra sat and gestured for David to take the other chair. She tapped her disk, and holographic charts appeared. To complete my data, I need answers on human bonding rituals. First question: why do humans seek partners with a history of pain? David paused. He looked at the charts, then at the glowing dome. He thought of his past. He thought of his breakups, the heartbreak that taught him to appreciate love. He realized pain and hope were linked. Pain teaches value, he said at last. When we suffer, we learn what matters. We seek connection because we know how it feels to be alone. Mira nodded and recorded his words. She then asked about loyalty, sacrifice, and forgiveness. Each question guided David deeper into his memories and emotions. He shared stories of family, loss, and forgiveness. He spoke of times he forgave friends who betrayed him. He spoke of moments he held hands with someone brave enough to stay. With every answer, Mira's eyes softened. Her data streams no longer seemed sterile. They held meaning. Outside the dome, David heard a faint hum. He stood and moved to the window. He saw 3 seekers approaching. They glowed red in the violet night. Mira joined him. She pressed a button under the table. The dome walls shivered. They found us. David felt his heart pound. Can we escape again? Mira took his hand. Yes, but not by hiding. He frowned. Then how? She met his eyes. By showing them what true emotion can do. By offering them compassion instead of fear. David's breath caught. He realized Mira meant to reveal human spirit to her kind. He squeezed her hand. Let's do it. Mira nodded and tapped the hologram. The dome doors opened wide. A group of seekers hovered at the threshold. Their red eyes glowed. David stood tall. Myra stepped forward and spoke in her language. He translated. We are not a threat. We come in peace and with truth. The seekers hesitated. Their lights flickered. One drifted forward. David felt calm. He closed his eyes and remembered his sister's hand on his shoulder when he cried. He thought of laughter, of kindness. When he opened his eyes, he spoke softly in his own tongue. We share our pain so you may know healing. We share our hope so you may know light. A hush fell. The seeker's red glow dimmed to blue. The forest lights pulsed in answer. Mira smiled through tears. It worked. David exhaled, relief flooding him. They had faced fear with love. They had shown their true nature, and maybe, just maybe, they had begun to change the galaxy. A new alliance. The dome lights glowed softly as David and Mira stepped out into the violet forest. The seekers hovered close by, their blue glow reflecting hope instead of fear. Mira looked at David and smiled. He felt warmth in his chest. They had shown their true nature and won a moment of peace, yet the air still hummed with tension. They both knew this peace might not last long. A large creature emerged from the trees. It looked like a living statue carved from crystal. Its voice echoed in David's mind. Welcome, ambassadors of emotion. I am High Curator Thera. I have watched your display. You have done what many thought impossible. David bowed his head respectfully. Mira stood beside him. She spoke softly in her language, then translated. We wish only to share truth and compassion. We come from different worlds, but we can learn from each other. High Curator Thera's crystal head tilted. Your species masters emotion in ways our kind has forgotten. Yet you live with pain and fear every day. Why do you not seek to end this suffering instead of studying it? David swallowed. He thought of his lonely nights and broken heart. He thought of laughter and tears. He said, pain and joy exist together. We must accept both. The study of emotion helps us grow stronger. Thera's crystal eyes pulsed. Interesting. Perhaps your world can teach us more than we teach you. Mira nodded and placed her hand on David's shoulder. We can exchange knowledge. I can show you our history if you share yours. As they spoke, the seekers circled them low to the ground. They now glowed green and white, symbols of peace and curiosity. One seeker dropped a small device at David's feet. A translator beacon. It would let them speak freely with any being on Kalira. David picked up the beacon and felt its smooth surface. He pressed it and heard his own voice echo through the forest. Hi everyone. He laughed softly. Mira joined him and laughed too. For a moment the danger felt far away, but Thera's tone shifted. An urgent tremor runs through our world's core. A rift opens between energies. It threatens both our worlds. We need your help. Without control of human emotion, the rift may consume us all. Myra's eyes widened. Tell us more, High Curator. How can we help? Thera's crystal vines quivered. The rift lies in the Valley of Echoes north of here. Its power grows when emotion is uncontrolled. You must guide us in calming the imbalance. David felt fear rise. Inside him, the weight of two worlds pressed on his shoulders. Yet he remembered his sister's gentle smile when they hugged after a fight. He closed his eyes and breathed. I will help. We will help. Thera's form brightened. Then come quickly. Time is short. The seekers formed a path through the forest. Mira took David's hand and they followed. The trees parted to reveal a glowing river of energy snaking toward the sky. They reached the Valley of Echoes. Echoes of past emotions hung in the air like mist. Joy, sorrow, anger, and love swirled together. The rift pulsed at the center, tearing the mist apart. Its roar sounded like 1,000 screams. Mira turned to David. We must focus your calm and hope into the rift. You guide our kind. I will focus my technology to amplify your emotion. David nodded, though his heart quaked. He drew a deep breath and remembered the laughter of friends, the comfort of family. He held out his hands toward the rift. Mira activated her device. The mist wrapped around them, carrying David's steady heartbeat. The rift shuddered. The screams slowed to whispers. For a moment, the world held its breath. Mira called out, Keep going, David. He pressed forward, sending hope through every fiber of his being. The rift's edges began to glow softer. The valley lights dimmed the chaos into harmony. The seekers hovered above, feeding on the calm. Then, with a final pulse, the rift closed. The mist coalesced into a circle of light beneath their feet. The Valley of Echoes sighed, as if relieved. David felt his body shake with exhaustion and relief. Thera appeared beside them again. You have saved us all. Emotion is a gift and a risk. Today you taught us balance. We owe you our deepest thanks. David looked at Mira. She smiled with pride. He realized their bond had grown stronger. They stood tall as the valley glowed in peace. The choice and beyond, the violet forest shone quietly after the rift closed. David and Mira stood beside High Curator Thera. The air felt calm and free. The seekers hovered above with gentle light. All life around them seemed to breathe in relief. Thera spoke first. You have done more than any could imagine. You have bridged emotion and logic. You have shown us a new path. David bowed his head. He felt proud and humble at the same time. He had never thought his feelings could save a world. He glanced at Mira. Her eyes shone with respect and trust. Mira touched his arm. They want to honor you. To ask you to stay as our ambassador of emotion. David's heart fluttered. Stay on Kalira forever? Leave Earth behind? He thought of his home. He thought of his small apartment. He thought of the night he first found Mira under his bed. His world had grown larger since then. Thera held out a crystalline blossom. This is a gift, a symbol of unity. Accept it. And you join our council. You will guide us as we learn to live with emotion. David took the blossom gently. Its petals glowed like his own heartbeat. He felt warmth spread through him. He imagined living here. He could learn so much. He could help so many. He looked at Mira again. She smiled and nodded. Her hand found his. He squeezed it, but then doubt crept in. He missed Earth. He missed the simple sunrise. He missed favorite foods. He missed the feel of rain on his skin. He missed friends he had not spoken to in years. He closed his eyes. He remembered the first time he told Myra his secret fears. He remembered how she listened without judge. He remembered the laughter they shared in the dome. He felt hope and fear swirl together. When he opened his eyes, he spoke softly. I am honored by your gift. I want to help you learn about emotion. But my home is on Earth. My life, my people, they need me too. Thera's crystal form shifted. You may choose only one world. The gift cannot bridge both. It needs full devotion. David felt his chest tighten. He knew he had to choose. He turned to Mira. He saw tears welled in her eyes. She hid them behind a brave smile. I love this world, he began. I love you. But I cannot abandon Earth. My life there matters too. I want to be a bridge between our worlds. But I must remain human. Mira blinked and nodded slowly. Then, I will go with you. David stared at her in surprise. She had risked everything to learn about his world. Now she offered to leave her home for him. He felt emotion rush like a wave. Gratitude, love, purpose. Thera and the Seekers formed a glowing circle around them. Thera spoke with solemn joy. Then you shall both be our first interworld envoys. You will travel between Earth and Kalira. You will guide us both in emotion and discovery. David and Mira exchanged relieved smiles. The blossom in his hand glowed brighter. The forest lights pulsed in celebration. The Seekers danced above like fireflies. Mira stepped forward and placed her hand on the blossom. The crystal vine around Thera glowed and extended toward her. The blossom split into two. One part floated to Mira and one remained with David. Both glowed equally. Thera spoke again. These blossoms will guide you. To open a portal, hold the blossom and think of your home. The portal will open. David gently held his blossom. He felt its energy sync with his heartbeat. He looked at Mira. Shall we go home? She smiled and nodded. Let us. Together they walked beneath the trees. They reached the portal gate they had used before. David held the blossom and Mira held hers. They closed their eyes and thought of Earth. The violet sky faded. A swirl of blue and green appeared. The sounds of night and wind mixed with the hum of the portal dot. Hand in hand they stepped through. The forest and moons vanished. They tumbled gently onto the floor of David's bedroom on Earth. The portal closed behind them. The morning sun peeked through the curtains. David sat up and looked around. Everything seemed unchanged. His old curtains, his floor, his simple desk. But he felt different. He felt connected to two worlds. He glanced at Mira. She looked around in wonder. She touched his arm. Your world feels alive, David smiled. It always was. I just needed to see it through your eyes. Mira handed him her blossom, and he held it. Its light blended with his blossom's glow. They pulsed softly. David thought of his friends and family. He thought of the work he still had to do. He thought of the questions he could now answer. He thought of the new life ahead. Mira watched him and asked, what next? He stood and looked at the window. The city stretched beyond. The day was just beginning. He took a deep breath. He felt fear and hope. He felt excitement and calm. He said, we share what we learned. We help people understand each other better. We show them emotion is our greatest gift. Mira nodded. She placed her blossom on his desk. We have a story to tell, David smiled. He reached for his phone. He typed a message to his sister. It read, I have an impossible story to tell. But it changed me for good. He sent it and felt a rush of hope. He turned to Mira. Let us tell our story together. Mira's blossom glowed in answer. They stepped out of the room together. The world waited. And so their new life began. The end.